Welcome, buenas noches, good night, and welcome to Oye Dimelo Cinema Club. Tonight, mañana, we are going to talk about Cotton Comes to Harlem. I picked the movie. We had just watched a documentary on Netflix, That Black Enough for You, and they were talking about
Is this black enough?
Is this black enough for you? And they're talking about black exploitation movies and the whole kind of 70s. And this was one of the movies that they talked about, and they showed a couple clips, and I was sold. I was like, I need to watch this movie. Like, it looks, the actors look super cool. At least that's what I thought. And so I picked this movie. And in the movie itself, that's one of the catchphrases of one of the characters, black enough for you. So it's a 1970s film. It was produced by MGM, so it's actually a studio produced film, and it's kind of considered the first blaxploitation film that was made, specifically also from a big Hollywood studio. So I just want to start it off with that, and I want to hear your guys' first impressions. Let's go with the teacher first.
So for me, I have some questions. I feel like we'll get into like budgetary things, and it's interesting for me. I wonder how much money you said was first big studio. So I'm hoping there's some background on that. I really thought it was interesting. I love the music. I definitely think the entire cast of Sanford and Son was in it. As a kid growing up, my parents would send me up to my bedroom, and I had a black and white TV. I'm older. And at 10 o'clock, I would watch Sanford and Son while laying in bed. And at 10:30, I would watch the Jeffersons every night. And there was a lot of characters from Sanford and Son. I even thought Aunt Esther was in there, but it wasn't. That was the lady from 227. So as I was watching this movie, it was reminding me of my childhood, as funny as that sounds. Overall, it was my first black exploitation film. And I didn't exactly know what to expect. I actually wrote down, is this black enough for you? Because there was one guy that was continuously saying it over and over. And if the movie's called that other movie, I'm just wondering, is that something that's said in other blaxploitation movies? Because that would be interesting.
Interesting. Just real quick, of the Sanford and Son, there are 9 actors appear in this movie that ended up being in Sanford and Son. And then you also have Cleveland Little from Blazing Saddles, who apparently was also considered for one of the main characters of Sanford and Son. Of course, Red
Foxx.
Red Foxx.
Oh my gosh, I saw him. I almost had a heart attack.
He did. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out, that it was, there are 9 actors that appear in this movie that ended up being in Sanford and Son. All right. Speaking of heart attacks, JP, what do you think?
Oh man, this film. I watch it when I'm sober, but no, this film's pretty damn good movie. Not gonna lie, this is not just. I think when it comes to like anything regarding mysteries and whatnot, I'm pretty sure we've seen a few of them movies. I don't like thinking too much, so like this movie got me pretty confused because it's part mystery, and I liked it though. I liked the movie. It's pretty. The one thing that I felt bad for the cop. Shame on me for feeling bad for a cop. That guy, I don't know
Which cop? Which cop? The white cop?
Yeah, the white cop.
The white cop, that's like every other cop. What are you talking about?
All right. And anything else, JP?
I know the white cop. Because, he comes in, he seems pretty hunky-dory. He's like, hey, you guys are all cool. Hey, you lady, you're cool too, but I got to do my job. And then they fucking dick around with that poor asshole. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There was a few moments where it was rightfully deserved. But I thought, this poor milk toast motherfucker. This film, it's great. There's a lot of like for this was what, 70s. This was literally 1977 with a 0. like for a 70 movie, like start of the decade, this movie's got a lot of action. Like, oh my god, you got these assholes were armed with handguns, but they were shooting motherfuckers with rotors. Did you see that? What was that?
It's called action, baby.
But yeah, I give it a B, and I'll have to watch it again to give it a more fair rating. But this is chill.
It's chill. All right, Steve, let's go to you.
All right. First, I gotta say this: I will never watch a movie on Tubi again.
Oh, hold on,
It's
real
the
quick.
worst.
What was the #1 commercial that you guys were getting? We were getting Paramount Plus and Criminal Minds Evolution every single time.
Yeah, I was getting like a MasterCard, like get this credit card type thing.
Well, we
I
watched
keep
it
on getting healthcare commercials.
Yo,
What about you, Chris?
that annoyed me so much. Like that was like my biggest issue, and it's not the movie itself. It's just part of the platform that it was on, because literally the moments I was like really getting into the movie, a commercial will pop off, and I have to mute it. Like I don't want to even to listen to it. Like it's so annoying. But man, this film, honestly, thank you, Dino, for picking this movie, because I would have never seen this film before, like never heard of it or anything. And I had a blast watching this film. Like honestly, the first things that really got me into this film, I don't know why, I just find it so funny, was the elaborate way that people were jumping off the camera. Like where people were getting hits, and like at one point they grab a guy and they just throw him in the air. Like I was laughing so hard. Like I was like, this is insane. Like I'm like, I just want to make a movie where I just throw a guy and it's just, you see, for 5 minutes, just someone just flying in the air for no reason. Like I just find it so entertaining. Yeah, I like JP said, I did like one scene that I wish that, I don't know, like they would have a little bit more to it, was the scene where that white cop, basically the woman leaves and he's like naked in the hallway of like this project or this condominium, and like there's literally no more explanation after that. He's like naked with a gun and a bag on his head, and like there's nothing more to it. And like I want to know, did he get beat up by the people? Did he, like, what happened? Like what exactly, like how do you follow up that? But we didn't get more explanation from that. But overall, man, I really enjoyed this movie. This would definitely be a movie I will watch again, just like JP said. Yeah.
Nice. Michaela.
I loved it. I'm like so mad that I've never seen this film in any lists, because like I would have never thought to like look for this, and I'm so glad I got to see it. And like it really does feel ahead of its time in like the way that they frame up a lot of their action shots, to the point where it's just like, honestly, if it wasn't for like the way that everyone was dressed, you could probably easily think that this was an 80s like action film. Like I don't think anyone would have questioned it if you just like changed the tone just a little bit and be like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like really ahead of its time. Like the plot was really interesting. The characters are all very, very interesting. Also, the costumes for this were just impeccable. Like absolutely impeccable. And like I'm kind of excited to know that there's like more of these films with these exact characters, and I can't wait to look for them.
Yeah. I definitely, I can't recommend that documentary enough on Netflix. I started writing down or even screenshotting the posters of, on IMDb of the movies that were really popping out, and I was like, I gotta make sure I see this. Oh, sorry, Michaela, I cut you off. Anything else to add to your? She said no.
She said no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And Jason, your first impression?
Save the black guy for last.
No, I'm last. I'm last. Save the Paraguayan for last.
So this is my first time seeing this movie. Like Dino said, it's the first like studio black exploitation film. This is kind of what kicked off black exploitation because the studios got involved and thus exploiting the actors or whatever, the black community. So this wasn't like an independently made film or anything like that. It was MGM produced it. The movie is pretty interesting because it is the first one, and I've never seen it, and it's referenced in a lot of different stuff. And these two detectives are kind of iconic. There's another film with them in it. The main actor, the one that you guys probably like, Dicker, he's a stand-up comedian. He's a very famous stand-up comedian during the time of like Bill Cosby, Dick Gregory, and those guys. He was like, performing. He was their contemporaries. And then the other guy, I think, was more like a Broadway actor, they said, or something like that. But so like the two lead actors are pretty interesting in it, the two detectives, and they're like no nonsense, and I like that. And there's a strong social message in this movie, man, which is like pretty strong for like the 1970s. A little bit of it goes over the top, but also I wasn't born in 1970, so I don't know. The whole thing is wrapped in this like tongue-in-cheek sort of, bacon wrap, like some asparagus. It's like the tongue in cheek is the bacon, But they're delivering a lot of like good messages in there, a lot of good ideas. I really like the guy who plays the Reverend
Deke.
Reverend Deke, con artist guy. Like I thought him as an actor, I thought he was really interesting. I was like, I want to see this guy do more work. Like I think because he feels like very much like a character actor in this thing. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him anything before.
I think from what I read, I think this was his only movie. I don't know why, but
That's a shame.
I don't know about. He felt like a stage actor.
Yeah. Well, there's a large group that ended up on Sanford and Son. There's a large group that are stand-ups, Red Fox, and I guess what you said of the Digger, and then there's a bunch that were doing a show on Broadway. That ended up being in the movie. So it's like this great kind of like, from what I was reading, of just like group of actors from different parts of of entertainment.
And they put them all together, and under Ozzie Davis's direction, this is pretty good. Like Ozzie Davis was one of Malcolm X's best friends.
Yeah.
So that's also pretty awesome. And he was married to Ruby Dee, I believe, for sure. They did a bunch of Spike Lee stuff together. So this thing is, like I said, this is a pretty almost historical movie in essence of like what it is. It was, a profitable movie as well. It did pretty good in the box office. It made like 5 times as money, in the 1970s. So it worked out pretty well. I would watch it again, and I'm kind of interested to see the other collaborations that these people made.
Hey, real quick. Since you're a figures guy, Jason, how much was $87,000 in that time to now?
That's a great question. So I kept asking that during the movie, and I didn't even bother to look it up. But I would guess it's got to be something closer to like $300,000, $400,000.
Well, here's where you could do the math. The first thing Jason said, before any dialogue happened, do you remember what it was? You saw something in the background?
So when the movie first comes on, I don't know if you guys notice this, there's a lot of like steak and chop shops in Harlem at the time. And I'm like, there's no more chop shops around anymore, are there? Like no one goes out for a nice chop anymore. Like that's a done thing of a past. No one has a chop. There's steak houses, no more chop houses. You guys notice that?
But it was the price that you pointed out.
Oh, so in Harlem in 1970, apparently, this is probably 69.
They filmed it in 69.
You can get a lamb shank or a leg of lamb or a lamb shank for 79 cents.
Yeah.
What?
And you were very unhappy about that too.
Yeah, people were like, "Man, what are
I step on no steak."
So how many lamb chops could you get for $87,000?
Oh man, so many lamb chops.
Dude, can I say something?
Yeah.
I totally thought when you said chop shops that you meant like places where they break down cars.
Mechanic. Well, that's where it comes from, right? You're chopping it up.
Okay, but that's what I was picturing. I was like, is that what they were showing in the background?
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what happened. Like the chop shop industry got too big and nobody wanted Chop House on their restaurant anymore. All the chop houses went out of business, man. Have you guys ever seen a chop house? I feel like maybe I saw one when I was like 5 or 6 years old. There's like a chop house.
Like a Quentin Tarantino movie, you know? Like not many.
Yeah. A chop house is just a butcher, though, right?
It could be a butcher.
Like
I thought it was a place to get like pork chops.
Then why wouldn't you get that at a butcher?
Steak and there was a lot of meat places too, so maybe you're right. But it looked like restaurants.
At least in
steak and chops.
In Paraguay, you get everything from, I guess, the butcher, right?
Well, the first one I saw had lights around it, so I'm like, that's got to be a restaurant. There's lights around it.
Yeah. Where you go and you pick it, kind of like the Texas Roadhouse and the other ones, where you're like, I want that chop.
Yeah, right.
Instead of like lobster in the tank, it's the meat.
I guess. But there was a lot of meat places too. If you guys saw that, a lot of butcher shops in Harlem.
Honestly, I think it's because of the occurrence of fast food really taking off in that decade. Because like I think that's the sad, unfortunate answer. Is all these spaces got bought up by bigger companies, and then
you're right.
But also,
it's a hamburger.
Oh, dude! But 79¢. Ooh, I would have bought that. I would have bought that thing still walking for 79¢.
I mean, that's where it makes sense with Eddie Murray. I got McDonald's.
Imagine like your steak and chop shop being eliminated by McDonald's in your community. What does that do for morale?
But that was the thing, though. The fast food joints wouldn't go into black communities or minority communities, right?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. That's a big thing. That's why even in Chicago, you get a place like Harold's Chicken and stuff like that have become huge. And I think then you get a little franchise from a black-owned family, because no one would come and open a fast food joint. Cool. So yeah, for me, I had seen a bunch more spoofs on blaxploitation movies than actual blaxploitation. I might have seen one or two, not even knowing that it was that, but I've definitely seen a lot of spoofs. I mean, even Pootie Tang, right? Like all those movies are kind of making fun of, because Pootie Tang, the fighting and all that also has dudes just flying, right? That's clearly something that was picked up. The one actor that really got me going, or he brought up the price of steak. The first thing I said, like, damn, look at that cape. The pastor was wearing that like cape, and then Jason was like, why don't we wear more capes anymore?
Honestly, like the entire wardrobe for this film is impeccable. Especially for what's the main lady's name? Like, my god! Like,
yeah,
I don't see why we should be wearing clothes anymore. Like Jesus,
the costumes are incredible. Like the robe she ran out of the house in was incredible. The
Iris,
right? The chain nets she was wearing, like lounging around in the house. I'm like, man, this girl's fashion is incredible.
Yeah, gotta find yourself a pastor.
I'm gonna be dreaming about that, like that piece that you were talking about. Also, like the silver disco suit.
Yeah.
And you can see through the stripes.
Yeah. I personally blame immoral philanthropists and vampires for the failure of the cape industry. I'm pretty sure once Lord of the Rings came around, I think capes kind of made a comeback, but that was early 2000s, and Amazon was not doing capes any favors. So
I feel like hobbits wear cloaks.
Oh God!
Yeah, hobbits.
They did come close. As a matter of fact, during that time, like I was in college, and I remember like kids started walking around campus wearing capes and stuff. Like they were in.
Oh, Harry Potter also the Marauders. I think it's Marauders cape, right? No, that's the map. But he has a little thing that he can become invisible. So,
the nerds had a moment. They had a moment.
So, So it was. I think it was 1.5 million is the budget, and it said it made around 5 million, which is always
1.3 million.
Oh, okay.
It's the budget.
Oh, I think I saw somewhere 1.5. Anyway, under 2 million to make. It made at least 5 million. You never know. And when it started to come out, it was breaking records. It's interesting that it was filmed in Harlem, but it premiered in Chicago, and then it went to Detroit. And like the theater premiered in Chicago, it broke records for opening weekend, and then even for like the first month or so. Same thing happened in Detroit, and then same thing in New York. It was breaking records, which, again, the documentary we even watch is like, black people go to movies. Why, it's like, why don't you kind of, do more movies with black people in it?
Yeah, it was like a traveling road show almost, the film, because, they didn't give them a simultaneous release.
We saw that in Dolomite also, right? Those movies where...
That was the blueprint.
Yeah.
Like, that's what everybody else was doing, so the studio's like, well, we could do that.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. There are a lot of moments I kept laughing out loud. There are a lot of interesting things. Before we get into also the sociology or whatever, because it's funny, I'll just put this now and then we can come back to it. But the New York Times critic, Vincent Canby, kind of butchered the movie and ended with, "It's strictly for people who don't care much about movies or who persist in regarding movies as sociology," which is a constant thing that keeps, it's weird. It's like you can be entertained and learn something, or you can have something from someone else's perspective, or, all that kind of jazz.
It's a movie for people who don't like movies.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean, though?
Yeah.
Because I don't like movies. I'm going to love this.
To point out that it was something that's not considered intelligent material,
Right. And
that's a hell of a thing to say.
Yeah, don't judge us on this.
Yeah, and JP doesn't like when white cops get made fun of, right?
Or
So
naked. Naked. Yeah. Steve wanted to see a lot more of the naked cop.
He's like, "What's up, more naked cop?
I want to know what happened.
I
want to see what backs the blue.
That was.
Where does this naked cop thing go, though?
He turned out the light.
Storyline. They never
He was like, "Let me go
finished it."
turn off the light first, then I'll take my underwear off."
Right.
The thing about it is he appears later in full uniform and everything. Like, how did he go from there to that? Like, we
He
need to
blew
know.
off the door handle, went
That's
inside.
a whole
Yeah,
other side quest that you have to.
No,
you have to run through Harlem.
Des has a point. There's a lot of characters here that for some reason have the ability to warp. Like the panhandle, the pickpocket who was told to leave during the rally. And then for some reason, 10 minutes later, he happens to be miles away from where the pursuit ends. Yeah. How did he get there? And he's cutting this lady's, dress. So he's obviously been there for a while.
Red Fox teleporter, he became a king. And he had a whole...
Spoilers, right?
I think all of it takes place in Harlem.
Yeah.
And the last time I checked, there's a subway in Harlem. So that would be my assumption.
New York, it is New York. Also, I just don't understand how, a woman can, hide I get why they'd hide a purse there, but, I can't imagine, that. I hope she has cash in her, other purse.
I like the idea that the conduit, the pickpocket, knew it would be there.
Yeah.
Right.
I also like the painting. The guy was super abstract. I was like,
everybody was.
When I was watching it, I thought that old lady was Ann Esther from Sanford and Son, and I was like, I want to know her name. So I went on
for a split second too.
It isn't her, and I was like, who is that? So then I looked down the list, and it's Pearl from 227, who was the little old lady always giving them advice and giving them shit. It was she was an awesome character.
I thought also one of the cops of the black cops, the Uncle Toms as they get called, was the father of JJ from Good Times.
No.
Don't be racist, Steve.
What is that guy's name?
Oh my
John
God.
Amos. John Amos. He lives 20 minutes from me. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Famous Amos?
Yeah.
Nope, not that one.
Not the cookie one, no.
Of McDowell's famous.
I did see an Instagram video the other
The
day.
McDowell's though putting in
Who
neighborhoods.
played Pearl on 227, and she's given like advice about having a long acting career and like what's it like to have a acting career that goes like 6 decades or something. If I find it, I'll post it inside the message
She's
thing. But it's
awesome.
pretty interesting.
All right, so we're kind of all over the place. So we'll start with characters. Basically, what got me to want to watch this movie from the documentary was the clips they showed of Digger, because he's one of the two cubs, the shorter one that wears the hat.
Also, that woman Pearl is in Friday. She's one of the old ladies in Friday, by the way. So having bit roles, she made a whole career out of it.
Let's
Yeah.
do what you got to do.
Heads up.
Digger, you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Digger, for me, I saw in the clips his facial expression. He's just like really relaxed, but the way like his eyebrows he would control, as well as that like almost pencil thin mustache. It was, I don't know, there was something about that I couldn't like move my eyes away from him whenever he was on screen, because it was just so expressive. And just I just felt it was so cool, and he's wearing a hat, and that hat kind of hats are cool, right? So he was my favorite for sure. I mean, all the actors, all the characters had their moments, especially with so many great lines, like one-liners or just back and forth. So yeah, that's kind of my favorite actor character in it, and I'd like to hear your guys' favorite characters.
My favorite character as a white male is actually the white male at the end who is the bad guy. And dude, every time he's like, I don't know what to say, that actor was just like, I'm just not going to talk. He said like 4 words the entire movie. He was terrible.
Which
was like
white
the worst
bad guy? The
guy who they rip
Italian?
off the mask, and he's like
The
"It's a
blackface.
white
The blackface.
I was like, but I was like this. I was enjoying that character because I felt awkward the entire time I was watching him because he just chose often not to speak. That was his whole thing. I thought that was an interesting character. He'd be like, "We're gonna kill you" and do all this stuff, and then he's totally silent every time people would mention him.
Yeah, and they kind of hang him on a fly system. Yeah, I think that choice at the end was just great. So great.
Yeah, totally.
That's how you deal with the man.
That's right.
That's how you deal with him.
I gotta say,
fly his ass off.
I gotta say that I'm between. I mean, I'm a comedy fan, so I gotta put Red Fox there. He killed it in the little scenes that he was given.
Oh
but
man,
I have to say, acting wise, I really like the pastor.
Yeah. Oh man, he's
it's so good, and especially like because at the very beginning, he has like that demeanor, like that the way he's carrying himself, the self-confidence, like he's very calm, like with his delivery. And like very confident. I really like that. Then when you get the reveal that he's like doing this scam stuff, you get like that criminal side part of it. And then at the end, when like the cops are saying, "Oh, he's gonna hang himself," and he has like this makeup that he looks like straight up from Thriller from Michael Jackson, and he's like, "Don't turn your back on me." Like to me, he killed it acting wise. Like it was so great.
Yeah, he had some really great turns in that movie, and I would agree with that. I think you nailed every sentiment that I had. It's the same.
I totally agree. Because, like, on top of that, like, you find yourself rooting for him constantly, even when you, like, know that he's a con. Like, you actually fall for his con. He is that good. Because, like, there were, like, parts in the movie where I just, like, saw him just doing his thing, just smarming the pants, and, like, you want it to work, even though he's nasty as fuck.
Just to add to that, Michaela, I legit, like at the very end of the movie, spoiler alert, but like at the very end of the movie, I was just like, wait, so I can't root for this guy? Like, no, the guys are the cops? Like, what?
I love that. Like you were for real rooting for the con artist. Like you were looking at it from like a Fast and the Furious perspective, where the bad guy eventually becomes good, and then you can root for him too for the sequel.
Yeah, basically.
Well, so
Guys, there's no ship.
well, like talking about how this is like comedy action, and it actually also has like implications on society and all of that. Like the one cop, Jones, the tall cop, he tells the deacon or the pastor, it has some great lines, right? Not just funny lines, but some really powerful stuff. He tells him, "One more word, soul brother. You had it made. Black folks would have followed you anywhere. You could have been another Marcus Garvey or even another Malcolm X. But instead, you ain't nothing but a pimp with a chicken shit backbone." Like, of course, my delivery is great, but their delivery, it's like so fucking powerful. And when he starts melting down, and he's just like, "I could have been the next Malcolm X. I could have been the next Malcolm X. Don't leave me." Like, it's so profound. And you just saw a guy in blackface be lifted out in a very comedic kind of way. It's just, it had a bunch of lines and dialogues that had that gravitas kind of thing that they really, knocked it out of the park.
I also just to add to that character, I also love because of course this is part of the script, how he was put in so many high risk situations, and he still managed to get out.
Yeah,
because the one that I was like, the one that I was like really like, oh my god, was when his old lady had like basically like a bottle glass, like right in his neck, and he's like reaching my pocket, and I'm just like, what are you gonna have in your pocket that's gonna change this woman's mind? Like what?
I was hoping it was the ship.
That was great. That was like, I didn't see that coming at all.
James Bond,
like
that.
Right? Fucking big ass rock.
No, the ring.
Yeah.
Now, is that something he just keeps in his pocket? Because he's like, no matter what woman, like, I need help, I can
someday
just
she's
be
gonna
like,
try and kill me. Yeah.
Yeah, just reach in my pocket, babe. Like, please.
Take notes, gents. You gotta carry a ring.
Ring around with you.
Who else has some?
I personally liked Red Fox. I liked his interaction with the Goodwin character. But I will tell you who I thought, in my opinion, gave the best performance. Oddly enough, it's multiple people. Anyone who took a fucking road flare to the chest in this film, I even the podium that took bullets made out of fucking sulfur. Like,
whoa,
it was
funny you bring that. Did you recognize the voice, the screaming agony?
Oh, did they do Wilhelm in this one too?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch it.
In the junkyard, especially when they shoot the water thing that also explodes, you can hear the Wilhelm scream, which is, for people who don't know, the famous scream they use in Star Wars, they use in Indiana Jones. It's become kind of an inside joke that is kind of added whenever someone usually falls off a cliff or any moment that someone dies, they'll add the Wilhelm scream. Yeah. Michaela, did you give a favorite character, or?
I just added a lot to the Deke thing. But I think we also need to talk about Uncle Bud and how perfect that ending was.
Yeah.
Because that was everything. Oh my gosh.
So I have a question about that. How did he get his money to go to Africa and stuff? Because he sold the bale of hay? Did he make a good deal on the hay?
No,
not the hay. I mean the cotton.
What he did was he overheard someone saying what was in it, and then he bought it back for like a couple extra bucks and then just took the money and left.
Yeah.
I thought they found the cotton inside the thing. Was that fake money?
No, there wasn't.
He got the money from the other guy, right?
Mobsters.
So the first off, just the interaction of him haggling with a junk guy to sell it, and
that was amazing, bro. That was amazing when they were like 25 and they do the turn.
And so he sells it for 25, and then one of the white henchmen shows up at his little barge and asks for the cotton, and he's like, I don't have it, and kind of escapes. And then he overhears them that the 78, is it 78,000 or 87?
87.
That's hiding inside the cotton bale.
Right.
And so then he has a moment of like,
So he buys it back.
So he buys it back for $30.
Wait, did he buy it back or he stole it?
No, he bought it back. Because then they asked the junkyard guy.
He bought it back for 30.
Yeah. And then he fakes his death because they make it into the barge and they're like, oh, poor, they got him. And it's not until the very end where they finally rip open the cotton and the money's gone. And so then they.
Oh, my bad. This is like an interruption. When they do the reveal that he's like now in Africa, is it right?
Yeah.
And basically they're showing
a postcard.
Like it's basically like a video.
Yeah, but it's a postcard.
It's a video postcard.
It's cool.
Okay,
which
so
isn't the first time they've done that. Like, there's a ton of MGM like Christmas movies that did that kind of stuff.
I was like that was
Harry
amazing.
Potter stole it later.
Yeah.
All the pictures in Harry Potter.
Yeah, like Holiday Inn does it like in every scene. It's a thing.
What a great thing! Also, like I'm gonna let them know what happened, right? Like that's like a Ocean's 11 or whatever. Just like now, I'll tell you what really happened.
But I thought when they opened up the cotton bale at the back of the theater, or at the cops when the cops opened it up, there was money in there.
Oh, so then the two cops, Digger and the other guy, and they go to the Italian mob guy.
Yeah.
And basically
earlier, he says like, why would I care about 87,000 lousy dollars? Like that's nothing to me.
So then they go back
to him
because they talk to the black, I guess the guy that works under the Italian mob that kind of runs Harlem. And they're like, "Hey, you're worse because you're stealing and giving it basically to the white mob or whatever." And it's like you would have so much power, or black people, if we work together, we have so much power. So then they basically go to the white mob and it's like, "Hey, we're cutting you off unless you pay like $87,000." So they basically got the mob to pay the money that Red Fox took to Africa,
and they put it back in
the bale. Put it back in the bale.
So that it sealed everything up.
Yeah,
and they did that to allow Red to get away, or to repay the people of the community.
To repay the people. They didn't know about Red until after that.
Right.
Because remember the white cop was like, I checked and there was no money there.
Yeah.
Like he was like his mind was blown. Like you guys fooled me.
So, in case anyone wanted to know, $87,000, inflation adjusted in 1969 was $745,000.
Wait, do that again? 87,000 is 700 and what?
$745,000.
That's crazy.
Inflation adjusted.
That was like 2 weeks ago. Now it's like 950,000.
I know. Yeah. Well, chops are like $18 the pound or some shit like that, right?
You will not get a lamb shank for 79 cents. I know
if you can find one.
If you can even find one.
We can't get strawberries right now. The world is crazy.
Come down to Ramona. We have our own lamb shanks.
There you go. 79 cents, everybody. Come on
down.
No. Tino's selling them. Hey, come on down.
82 cents.
Price is guaranteed.
Dude, so talking about money, you said $2 million for the budget? 1.5?
1.3.
Yeah, 1.3.
I know where the money came. Dude, the money went to the costumes, the flare in the chest. It went to The car chases, dude. They went to the stuntman. The car chases. They were
really good when
they were bending panel trucks. How are they not rolling those panel trucks?
Yeah, they rolled them for real, and the really crashed
fall
truck
over
into
somehow.
a truck.
Dude.
But also, I bet you stuntmen didn't have like a union. They probably didn't get paid jack.
So I got two questions. Do you think
No, they were just recording actual traffic in Harlem.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so real quick, some of the money might have gone. So they were filming in actual Harlem, right? Which isn't necessarily, you can't just go, yeah, especially then. So the fact that it was kind of a black production and they were filming there, a lot of the extras, all that, were people from the community because they wanted to kind of show a good side to Harlem since they were getting so much bad press. That it's interesting that you brought up the guy that was, I guess, close to Malcolm X, because they actually got John Shabazz, who was Malcolm X's former bodyguard, to like kind of help with security because he was part of the Black Citizens Patrol that would kind of like Black Panthers in the sense of like they were there to help the community and kind of be the security for the community. So,
also, Malcolm X was from Harlem.
Yeah, so that community that group actually like volunteered to just make sure they kept people that weren't supposed to be kind of in the shots and all that kind of stuff. So that's an interesting.
They save money that way too.
Yeah,
dude, you know where they did?
And we talked about this while we were watching it. Red Fox and Malcolm X used to work on a train cart from Detroit to Chicago when they were young.
Yeah, a diner cart, and they were known as because Malcolm X was redhead, Detroit Red, Chicago Red, and there was a third guy who I think also became famous for one or another, or maybe. I forget who he was, but it was another
person who worked with him too.
It was three of them: Chicago Red, Detroit Red, and maybe Tennessee Red. I forget what it was, but it's in Malcolm X autobiography, which is
they were both redheads.
Yeah,
when they were like in their 20s.
The three of them. Yeah. All right, Chris.
Do you know where they didn't spend that money? On the getaway car. It was about 5 feet too tall, and it was made of gold, and Squid Game characters jumped out of it. It was like the worst getaway car of all time. There's no getting away in that car with those
I was trying to understand the purpose of like a gold armored truck.
It was just part of the look of it. We're going back to Africa, or we're going back home. Now we're going back to Africa.
It was part of the marketing for the pastor, for the reverend.
But they were trying to get away in it. That's a terrible thing to try and get away in.
Well, that's where the bale of hay with all the money was in. That's where they're shooting from.
To try and get it.
Well, yeah. So when they open those doors, the people in the gold truck, I was like, why aren't they getting shot? They're shooting from hiding behind something, and it was the bale of hay, not of hay, the bale of cotton that had all the money inside of it, because. I was also struggling. I was like, where did this bale of cotton come from? Because they find the cotton in the empty truck. So in one of the scenes in the car chase, that cotton actually flips out, and then that's where Red Fox finds it and puts it on his little cart.
Also, my bad for derailing a little bit the conversation, but since we're talking about cotton, how funny was it that like the theater show went from like a burlesque show to like a gospel show
with kids. She's stripping.
Full stripping, like stripping.
Yeah.
Cause I saw Coming to America, so this I know culture.
Sexual chocolate.
So I believe that scene is supposedly taking place at like the Apollo Theater, which is like a variety act theater, right? Mm-hmm. I do agree that it would be weird to put those like on the same ticket. You know what I mean?
And she would have stripped more if it wasn't for all the shit that happened with the guy, the dude in blackface.
And on top of that, Deke, when he's crucifying himself, he's slapping kids.
Yeah, Deke is losing it at that point.
Yeah,
Deke is like, I like how the kids were like, "This is our moment. Let go of the mic."
Yeah.
Yeah, it
kid
is.
did not.
Fucking- You know what's crazy? I was almost empathetic towards his plight. I was like, kid, let go of the goddamn mic. Like,
He's like, I've been practicing for this thing every day after school for months.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, Chris. Well, I think we keep cutting you off. Maybe no.
I don't
All
remember where we're
right.
at.
So we've kind of said a few different things, but do you guys have any favorite lines of dialogue? Or we've talked a little bit. My thing that I noticed, holy shit, the way they would say honky, I've never heard it so like so many of the lines were delivered so well, like musical, like the everything. But the way they would, like Iris saying honky and like some of the other characters, I was like, I've never heard it like that before. And not that I've been around people yelling out honky and stuff like that, but it was just I don't know. It's such musicality tones to the different lines that they would say and the way they would say honky, and I just loved it. I was like,
Dina's like, how many ways can I throw honky into this thing?
that's what I was
How
thinking.
many more times can I say this?
I
Honky.
would marry Iris still.
you would still marry
Oh
Iris?
man, I love Iris.
but would you put
I
a
like
bag
how
over
Iris
your
was
head
talking-
for her?
What was that?
But would you put a bag over your head for her? I can't believe that guy committed to that.
That's one of the things that sold me on wanting to see this movie when they showed that scene in the documentary. I'm like, wait, what movie is this?
Well, okay, so I guess I think we should go into final thoughts, but I'll add kind of like so we can kind of talk a little bit about it also, like kind of the different implications. And I think that's a good point of just in the sociological point of view or whatever, of the fact that blaxploitation movies kind of tiptoe or dance around the line of, is it part of the community that's making fun of themselves? Is it white studios making fun of them and making money? Is it a little bit of both? Is it moments like that where they, dehumanize, but also make fun of white people and white cops to be, or just like the police, the men, right? And put them in paper bags and over their face, like, so when you, for final thoughts, I would like you to maybe do the regular final thoughts, but kind of like, what did you kind of see? What was maybe the message underneath the movie, if you will, underneath just the comedy pulp noir detective kind of movie, because it is based on a book also.
I'll go first because
Yep.
I probably am the less person to be giving a lot of opinion about this, but essentially I really enjoy this film. Based on what you are saying right now, I think it's like a convoluted thing. It's like a lot of different things because you do get, like, for example, the blackface situation, and that's something that me and JP used to watch a lot of old films with good old Stu back in the day, and there were
Don't
films.
talk about my home movies. Oh my God, what are you doing?
And that was definitely a thing. Al Johnson and them people, doing them thing back in the day. But also, like, one of the scenes that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and I can mention it briefly now, my final thought was basically the scene that he comes into the house that he's staying, and he puts on the robe of like that woman's old husband, and then she's missing her her dead husband, and he goes like, I'll take care of you and I'll love you, and then they're kissing, but then all of a sudden quickly this other lady, forgot the name, comes in and like sees them, so she thinks that they already been hooking up, and then a whole brawl breaks in, and then she gets smashed in the head. So all that is all domestic abuse that unfortunately is something that especially back in the day. I mean, today I'm pretty sure it still happens, but like back in the day, for sure, it was a theme that was like a recurring thing. And and that's something that is putting kind of a mirror of like, hey, this is something that, you know, it happens very often. And it's like there's a lot of domestic violence, there's a lot of mistreatment towards women, and that's something that this movie specifically shines a light on. And I did enjoy those themes that they do portray. Of course, you know, even the smacking of the children, that's like something that, you know, that who I personally grew up getting smacked. I don't know about y'all, but like I did, and and that's something that, you know, it happens. And so I think it's a little bit of mixture of both, because there's things that like for sure the studios have exploited in the past,
Yeah.
but there's things that are shining kind of a light of or putting of a mirror of like, hey, this is something that's happening within the Black community and the minority community as well.
For yeah, and for the most part, I will say the women in this movie uh, gave as hard as they got, kind of thing. Like even Iris, right? She was a really strong character, kind of like trying to figure a way to get out and escape the police custody. Did it multiple times, right? Somehow dressed up as a old.
The hell out of those assholes.
Somehow dressed up as an old lady to leave the prison. And then, yeah, she was trying to beat up on him as well, and even murder him with a bottle, right? And you know, so there's a little bit of that where at least the women are also kind of trying to stand up for themselves, for sure, in the film, even though, you know, there's only like 2 women really characters in the film. Yeah, well, was that it, Steve, for you? With just kind of finishing up.
Final thought: I will watch this movie again. It's a great film. There's definitely moments to reflect on. There's moments that are hilarious, and there's moments that is just great cinema.
Yeah.
So I was shocked with this movie because it was a very hard movie to find outside of Tubi. I'm mad that I watched it there. I'm still mad that there's commercials interrupting so many great flow states for me, but it was a great film.
Yeah.
Tubi, not a sponsor.
Yeah, nor Pluto TV, which is what we watch it on. Next time, especially for minority movies, we need to just support that $3 on Amazon or whatever.
I'm definitely gonna do it next time over ads anytime.
Or, you know, go to your local video shop, rent the film, because you watch it on those platforms, like for just a low payment of $29.99. If you pay for this Medicard, you could get free dental and checkups for every 3 months for only $2.99 on the Wellness Ultra Silver card. Consult with your doctor before Medicaid, Medicare.
JP, are you in this movie? I feel like you're in this movie. I feel like you're one of the characters.
How much time for a fake advertisement?
To answer the questions regarding the final thoughts, the finalities of the thoughts, you guys ever think about what will be your final thought on Earth? I think about that a lot, actually. But getting back on topic here, the short answer to one of your questions is money. When it comes to what I think the message of the film was, I think it's pretty obvious that it's almost, of course, like do not take down or exploit your group or whom you would consider family.
Your community.
Your community, yeah. Because I thought it was gonna be about these two ideologies about, you know, seeking, you know, a place of what people would think is their place of origin as salvation versus the law. But it turns out, no, it's about like don't exploit and fuck with your own, because they call the cops pigs and whatnot. but they're pretty explicit with a lot of folks. Is like, have we ever broken promises to you? Have we ever steered you wrong? You know, it's like we do our jobs, but you know, we'll look the other way as long as, you know, if you fuck with someone else, we don't care. But when you fuck with your own, that's a problem. You know, and it's talked about that a lot in the movie. And once it comes to light, you know, that one of their own who they thought was, you know, with them is actually kind of being an asshole, they turn on him, like, you know, and if it doesn't become evident through word of mouth and just actions, they literally see it on stage where he fucking just punts a fucking kid in a goddamn robe. Fucking Sunday service is over. Boom. But yeah, I think that's the message of the film. I would perhaps watch the movie again in much clearer thought. And I think it's a good movie. I think I said B in the beginning. Yeah, it's definitely a B. Definitely B movie.
Okay. Jason?
I liked it. I liked that it was my first. It was not my first black exploitation film, but it's my first time seeing the first studio black exploitation film. So that was cool from a historic and a movie milestone moment, I think, personally for me. That was awesome. Lots of great actors in this thing that you'll know if you grew up watching TV and being entertained, you know, over
in Chris's house.
In Chris's home. Over the last 52 years as well. Like, there's a lot of great actors in this, and there's a lot of history in here, and there's a lot of like social history packed into this thing. Like I said, it's very tongue in cheek. It doesn't take itself totally serious, but also there's a serious message. But it kind of strikes a nice, cool balance where it's like, yeah, man, if you're a black person in America and you're not used to seeing yourself represented theatrically in cinema and whatnot, this is a great experience. You know, you got the heroes, and you know they're tough guys, and everybody's sort of, you know, it's a great first outing for a film of this nature, for sure. I would watch it again. I'm not interested in watching it again only because I would like to spend more time watching movies that came out around this time. I'd like to see the sequel to this. And also remember, like, Shaft came out only 1 year later.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to glean from this movie. I would recommend it. I would recommend it to cinephiles and people who like black exploitation movies. I would recommend it to black people. I would recommend it to a lot of people I would recommend it to people who like, hey, what about comedians who were in stuff in the 70s? I'm like, this movie's packed with them. So yeah, those are selling points for the movie for me. Yeah, I recommend it.
Nice. Chris, did you go yet for final thought?
For me, dude, it was like, no, I haven't gone. For me, it was like kind of like watching a Dirty Harry, you know, Clint Eastwood movie, in the sense of like the guns sounded the same. The way certain times when they're running around scenes and their shoes hit like wood, like, and they're like dress shoes. It has like a different sound when they're running with those on. And I love that kind of sound editing in all movies from that time. So for me, I was like, that's another thing. The way the car screeched on the road when they went just definitely threw me back into movies I had seen before, even that are outside of this genre. I would recommend it to people who have never seen anything in this genre. And the reason is because I think it's interesting to try stuff out in every single genre. And this, I feel like I've only seen this. I think I saw Dolomite. And I've seen Shaft. I don't know if that falls into the same category, but
yes.
But I would pick this one because I think it really hits all the tropes that are in a lot of the like names of other films in this genre. Make me think that they're just as ridiculous in some ways as opposed to like Shaft, I guess, in some ways. So like Blackula, there's a whole list of them that just to me seem like they would be over the top more. In the end, I think that I 100% echo what I can't. I'm going to say this. I 100% echo what JP said. I really thought it was about a community going against itself more than anything. They did the analogy of the crab in the bucket. You know, they talked about a couple of those things, and to me, I think that really was the main message of this. Like, the anger they had at the end for that guy was so much different, and I think that was the message of the movie. At least that's the way I saw it.
Nice. Michaela.
I mean, I adore this film. It's so smart on so many different levels, because not only is it about community, but it's also kind of like they go into a lot of like parallels with like a lot of like the old folk tales that come from this community, because they mention Brer Rabbit a lot, which are exactly what like the preacher and the detective's dynamic are, and like constantly you see like the black characters outsmarting everyone in like that's like such a big part of like African American stories that I've read too, because like I can think of a whole bunch of books that came out in this area, like Oreo, for example, where it's very much that same dynamic of everyone just trying to outsmart each other to do the best they can and live their best life. So there's like aspects of that in there, you know, and it's just like, as much as like extreme as it is, I think they saw this as an opportunity to make something that speaks to their culture and what their community is about, and make this really important film. And I'm so glad that I got to see it. You know, I do think this is a very important film for people to see. And honestly, they had a lot of fun doing it, and that's what great movies are all about.
Michaela, just to clarify, you haven't read the book, right? Or
not for the specific one. It's like I've read a couple things, like a lot of like fun pop books from the 70s, specifically by like Frank Ross, and a whole bunch of other like interesting things. Where like
the author of this one is Chester Himes. Have you read any of his? Does it sound familiar?
It does ring a bell, like a really big bell. But it's just like there's like a lot of just smart things that like are underlayered under the extremeness of this. Yeah. That like honestly, I feel like they really took advantage of an opportunity.
No, that's cool, because I didn't even read the subtitles.
What? Damn it, JP. Like, we all were kind of supporting. It's like the smartest you've sound, and I don't know if that's because we can't see your face talking, so it just seems like you're eloquent. But yeah.
Try living with him.
I think he just called your face not smart.
That's okay. I don't have to look at it, so I don't have an opinion.
Nice. All right. I'll do my final thoughts. Yeah, I think we're all kind of had the same thoughts about it, about the community and all that, and it's always kind of that like, oh, you're stealing from your own kind, from your own community. And then there's even the idea, because you have the Italian mob guy also. And so it's kind of like the black guy that is kind of running under the mob that is stealing from his own people. So you have like different levels of that, right? And of course, then you also have Red Fox, who's just like, oh, I'm just, a hustler kind of thing. And so there's all these different levels of what is kind of seen as okay, what isn't. And that I also really enjoyed not only the making fun of the white cop being naked and all that, but also like the chief and the higher up, right? And like the one guy who's who's the guy who runs the precinct, who knows Digger and his partner, and is like, I just leave it kind of like they're in charge of Harlem, right? Type of thing. Like, let's let them do their magic. Like, they've never done me wrong, type of thing. And then you have the other guy who's just kind of like, this is wrong, blah blah blah. But at the end, he's like, you did it, type of thing. So yeah, I'm really happy I watched this movie. The thing a lot of times with blaxploitation, and it also happens with other movies that deal with the minorities and their kind of things. Sometimes it's like you can't quite know like who is in it, who is in on the joke, who is this message for, who is it written for Latinos? Is it written by Latinos for Latinos and all that, or is it the studio? And this one seems that it's kind of like the filmmakers were kind of like, yeah, we got the money from the studio and all that, but we're going to make it kind of for our community. And then the idea of blaxploitation is that blew up, and everyone's just trying to copy it and just trying to take advantage of the same kind of stereotypes and stories. And that's where sometimes it gets a little grayish in the, is this for the community or is this making fun of that community type of thing? So I think it's really nice to see kind of like where all other films, and not just blaxploitation, but a lot of the kind of partners, right? How many cop partners movies had
Buddy
their
cop.
buddy cops
buddy movies?
yeah, kind of like a Bad Boys or whatever, right? And how they like it'll be interesting to see like when those archetypes kind of character types kind of started, So yeah, I enjoyed it. At some point I would probably revisit this movie, but kind of like with Jason, it's like this opens a complete new like can of worms, if you will, where it's like, all right, I've seen this one. There's the what's the woman's one, the something Jones,
Carmen Jones,
is that the one? Also blaxploitation one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like anyway, there's all these movies now that I'm like, oh, I want to see this one. I want to kind of see the evolution of it, because the 70s was also this great new kind of wave of cinema, right? Of like archetypes and not just like heroes, kind of like Dirty Harry also, although he might be 80s actually. But yeah, anyway, I would definitely at some point revisit this, but I would recommend it to a whole sleuth of people. I don't know if I use sleuth correctly, but yeah.
Maybe not Dirty Harry. Who was the Charles Bronson one?
Death Wish.
Yeah, Death Wish.
That maybe Death Wish, but yeah,
just all revenge with Charles Bronson. That was like in every movie.
So I'm down to watch more of.
You ever see The Mechanic, Chris?
With Charles Bronson?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's basically the same thing, right?
Yeah.
My dad was like a big fan of like every, that's all like just revenge. He loved revenge movies.
Well, he was an assassin. He was a hitman, and they called him the Mechanic.
Yeah. I think they've tried to remake it a bunch.
I was going to say, was it recent? Because I feel like they might have remade like the Transporter.
Yeah, they for sure. My dad's favorite actor kind of that time period also was Charles Brosnan, but that was mainly because of like the westerns and stuff he was in. Charles Brosnan barely speaks at all in his movies, so my dad, not really speaking English, was like, yeah, I didn't have to like
totally relate.
He was a silent type, right? Strong silent type that didn't talk, so you could just watch him beat people up. All right, well, that is Conan. I just forgot the name. Conan Comes Back to Harlem. Is that the one we just reviewed? Go out and watch that. We all agree with JP apparently in this one. And Jason, you got a question for Steve?
Yeah, I do actually. So thank you for.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Steve, what do you got for us next week?
Next week, I don't know what you asked me because I was last week with Austin Powers. So next week, it is Chris, the teacher's turn.
So can I be like the professor? That sounds cooler.
Okay, you're the professor.
Good news, everyone.
Name now, you got to make a terrible name for me. Dude, we're gonna watch a 1998 German movie. I saw it in college, like my second or third year in college, at like a local artsy movie theater, and because I was going by myself every once in a while I was in college, and it was Run Lola Run.
Oh shit!
Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I'm down for this.
I've seen parts. I don't think I've seen the whole thing, or I was way too young to watch it. So
never
about this one.
I've seen it in my life. I thought it was.
I hope it's nothing like the Russian movie that we saw. That was a fun joyride.
Well, I'm really happy to revisit this one. So this would be great. Like I've seen it once, happy to revisit it. I'm glad I get to talk to you guys about it.
You thought war crimes are bad. Could you make war crimes even harder to watch? Yes, you can. The answer is yes.
So you saw this in theaters, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Nice.
Yeah. I'm old.
Very cool.
Talk about it.
All right. Steve?
So for Chris, Jason Echoes, El Dondino, Michael and JP, and me, Steve, that's Stevie. We'll catch you next week.
Bye. Ciao.